You think that if you cast a wide dating net, you'll have more date options. It does seem to be an intuitive thing. The wider the net, the more fish you catch, right? But women aren't fish swimming around until your net drops on them. And dating isn't intuitive, it's counterintuitive. Women have an extraordinarily fine-tuned social intelligence radar. They know, though they almost never say it out loud, if you are authentic. They also know if you're not. In the first video in this series, I diagnosed the vanilla trap, the total exhaustion of wearing a polite vanilla social mask that hinders you from making the depth and quality of connection that most men only fantasize about. In the second video in this series, I mapped out the system, the clear, shame-free blueprint of the Proclivity Matrix. In this last video in the series, I want to show you how to execute the alchemy. There is a psychological dynamic in modern dating that feels completely counterintuitive to the overthinking mind. The more efficiently you filter people out, the more you pull the right people in. In other words, when you passionately disqualify potential partners using your proclivity matrix, the more the women who are qualified want to be chosen by you. Think of it like this. If a company wants to hire someone, they don't just invite everyone to the job interview. They select who they will invite based on the criteria that the job requires. The more requirements a company expects a candidate to meet, the fewer candidates it will invite to a job interview. But those who do come will be highly qualified. I call this the polarization principle. Most men are flatly terrified of polarization. You treat a date like a high-stakes job interview, constantly monitoring your posture, adjusting your opinions, and hiding your true desires out of an exhausting fear of judgment. You believe that presenting a perfectly smooth, non-threatening vanilla surface maximizes your options. But in the architecture of human attraction, a completely smooth surface gives her mind nothing to hold on to. When you attempt to become pick-worthy to every woman you date, you fail to create polarity. This doesn't create safety, it creates absolute boredom to her. She knows when you are an actor trying to get the part, and she looks for a better candidate. To smash through the intimacy ceiling, you must stop asking for permission to enter her world and decisively invite her into yours. When you map your proclivity matrix, your precise relationship container, your alignment with power dynamics, your sensory triggers, and your quirks and kinks, and you openly state them, you are taking a calculated risk. You are risking experiencing the feeling of rejection. But here's a secret, and it's a secret that most people don't understand. Rejection happens up here, not out here in the real world. Rejection is a feeling, not an objective reality. The feeling of rejection happens in your mind. That's the secret. When you take the feeling of rejection and reframe it as her disqualifying herself, you never again suffer the pain of rejection. And this is more than just a reframe. When a woman disqualifies herself because she doesn't meet the requirements to step deeper into your world, this doesn't happen in your mind. It's not a feeling. It is an objective reality that does happen in the real world. What you are actually doing is signaling immense, unshakable safety. Why? Because a woman's wiring dictates a deep instinct for psychological survival. She knows that revealing her own buried, unconventional desires to the wrong man is highly dangerous. At best, she gets shamed or judged by a man with a weak frame. At worst, she gets hurt by an uncalibrated man who lacks voluntary control. When you stand before her as a man who owns his hidden nature, you've made peace with your shadow, and you do so without a shred of shame, you prove that you can't be manipulated. A man who can't be shamed is a safe haven for her. When you calmly communicate, I'm not looking for a standard vanilla dating relationship. I hold an unshakable frame and I lead. So my partner has the absolute luxury of trust, safety, and security so that she can be as vulnerable as she needs to in order to drop the social mask and truly be herself without fear of getting burned. This draws a line in the sand. She might run away. Excellent. The system successfully filtered out incompatibility before you wasted 3 months of precious energy and capital. Or her biological brakes will release and she will realize, finally, a man who actually knows who he is, what he wants, and is unafraid to articulate it. Women in the dating market are thoroughly exhausted by the chameleon. Men who mask their intentions, play the compliant nice guy, and hide their authentic sexual self just to gain temporary physical access. When you bypass the standard courtship dance and lead with your absolute truth, you completely disarm her psychological defenses. By showing your cards with calm precision, you establish a rare zone of non-judgmental acceptance. She looks at you and realizes she no longer has to hide her true map either. If you are brave enough to speak what others keep unspoken, she feels safe enough to get out of her head, drop her social mask, and step entirely into her body, into her true form. You stop being the man who is negatively affected by her emotions, and you become the man she trusts to lead her emotions. And that is exactly where addiction begins. She doesn't become obsessed because you bought her an expensive dinner or performed a set of pickup tricks. She becomes addicted because you are the only environment on earth where she is completely free to experience absolute liberation. So, the question at this point is, how do I actually communicate this without sounding like a creep? Good question. If you blurt out your raw sexual desires over casual drinks, you will trigger her biological danger brakes immediately. You will sound exactly like a creep. True mastery is an engineered sequence. You must follow a specific 3-step conversational framework to communicate your coordinates while firmly establishing safety. I call this the ARC framework. Think of it like a conversational arc. Step 1, A stands for anchor. You never introduce a desire out of nowhere. You build a bridge to it using an objective approach. Talking about human psychology or dating culture as an outside observer. You normalize the topic before you personalize it. So, something like this. I was reading an analysis on why modern relationships feel so flat and inefficient, and why so few couples really connect at a deep level. It noted that most people spend months wearing a polite social mask, terrified to admit what they actually need to feel fulfilled. This insight impressed me, and I resolved to stop doing that. Life is too short to play guessing games. Then, strategic silence. Let her respond. Step 2, the R stands for reveal. Do not lead with bedroom mechanics. You establish the structural framework of your relationship typology, what kind of relationship you were looking for, quadrant 1, and your emotional landscape, your needs and desires, your emotional proclivities, quadrant 2. You explain how you operate emotionally. Something like this. For me, I know I thrive best in a monogamous relationship, but mentally, my emotional engine runs heavily on extremely deep intimacy and clear power dynamics. I'm highly analytical in my professional life, but in my personal life, I choose to step into an unshakable masculine frame where I protect and I lead. Because I want my partner to have the absolute luxury of dropping her control and resting completely in her feminine flow. And then, strategic silence. You wait for her to respond. Her response will tell you if you should take the last step in this conversational framework. If she leans in and says, "Really? Tell me more. I'm interested." Then you know she is intrigued and you give more details. But if she leans back and says, "Sounds like you just want to be in control of everything," then you might lean back as well and say, "You know, I can tell you are a very articulate woman, so I think you know that it's more nuanced than that. But if you want a yes or no answer, then my answer is yes, I like to be in control." And you can say this because you already know that she has disqualified herself. If she interprets this as you wanting to be controlling, then she isn't the right person for you. She has disqualified herself. Step 3, calibrate. Only after she has validated and accepted your structural framework do you introduce a low stakes coordinate from your physical or sexual quadrants? Not as a demand for compliance, but as an authentic expression of your identity. You state it calmly, then employ strategic silence. Something like this. Because of the power dynamic elements of my emotional desires, I notice my physical triggers are highly tied to intense visual and sensory experiences rather than just standard routines. I value a space that leans into edge play and unconventional kinks, where raw intensity is balanced by deep empathy and meticulous aftercare. I've found that when those boundaries are clear, it completely eliminates overthinking for my partner and turns intimacy into a relational and erotic masterpiece. When you do this, the wrong women step away and the right women step closer. To execute this dialogue successfully, your delivery must reflect flawless internal alignment. There are 3 absolute rules you must follow when communicating your matrix. Rule 1, maintain clinical neutrality. You must speak about taboo subjects with a calm, matter-of-fact tone you would use to describe a basic corporate project outline. If you show discomfort, lower your voice nervously or shift your eyes, you signal to her nervous system that you believe your desires are shameful. If you display shame, she will register danger. Rule 2, complete outcome independence. You are not presenting your proclivity matrix to convince her to agree with it. You are simply dropping a data point to see how her operating system reacts. If she looks confused or uncomfortable, you don't pull back, defend your position, or apologize. You stand like a mountain. Her incompatibility is merely data. That's it. Rule 3, use the invitation frame, never the demand frame. Vanilla men try to force open the gate of female desire using pressure or transactional behavior. An unshakable man simply opens his own gate and offers an invitation. You are communicating, this is the architecture of my world. You are entirely welcome to step inside if it aligns with your map, but I am content if it does not. Stop hiding the beautiful, complex matrix that defines who you truly are. Use it to state your depth. Use it to decisively filter out the 80% of the dating market that will only ever view you as a provider or a vanilla roommate. And watch with absolute presence as the remaining 20% look at you with eyes that are intrigued and hungry, because you possess the rare masculine grounding to build a safe haven for their truest selves. Theory, however, is entirely useless without direct application. Knowledge is just a map. If it sits in your glove box, it's useless. You need to learn, apply, practice, and adapt these principles. If you are ready to stop flying blind, if you want to know how to present your proclivity matrix without a shred of fear, shame, or awkwardness, and if you want to install the precise social engineering required to weave your true desires into conversation naturally, That is exactly why I built the 30-day dating decode. It is a free training that lays out the first phase of the frame, flow, and fire formula. It is the mandatory first step to calibrate your identity so you can step into the room and command it. So here's the link if you want to get free access to the 30-day dating decode. In the next series, I'm going to cover one of the most important frameworks you can possess in the dating market, the North Star Protocol. I won't ask you to subscribe, like, or comment. If you're a man of action, you'll click the link and get to work. If you're not, you won't. I'm David. I'll see you in the next video.